in round 9 of the Winfield Cup between Penrith and St George. Our match today coming from Penrith Park. Both teams sitting about midway up the competition table, with the Saints on 10 and Penrith on 8. On their 2 encounters in the Premiership last year, the Saints came out winners on both occasions. Roy Simmons leads the Panthers today in what is a vital match for them. A loss could well see them 4 points out of the top 5. Their full team: Robards, Green, Izzard, Gonzalez in 17 for Ken Wolfe, Lydiard, Clements, Alexander, Connor, Horton, Cartwright, Broman, Simmons and Gerard. Craig Young, he's got the task of lifting the Dragons after their midweek defeat by Manly, and their team includes many changes. Burgess fullback, Johns in for Cancella, O'Connor, Johnston comes in for Beattie, Morris, Linane, Haddock, Selby, Walsh, Funnell for Fafita, Young, Guider and Jarvis. And the ref for today's match is Mick Stone. Penrith running left to right. Quite a good home crowd here to see them in this battle against the Saints. They too realising the importance of the match. And as I said in the prelude, the importance of the match, particularly for Penrith. And there's Jarvis putting it down. Gerard's come up with the ball only 12 metres out from the St George line.
It is a big game for Penrith, but it's a game also that they can win, particularly if they're still in the match at half-time, because St George, to my mind, are certainly going to tire in the later minutes.
Broman to within 2 metres of the line. Connor is the dummy half across to Alexander. This is Cartwright. There was a very solid tackle on Cartwright. Penrith coming up with the ball. That really sickened the Penrith second rower, Cartwright. Clements and Alexander, a grubber kick through. Izzard goes fast after it, but St George through fullback Burgess coming up with the ball. This is Funnell.
Penrith have adopted an interesting pattern of defence in the early minutes of this game. They've been playing Rob Robards, their fullback, up on the front line, and Alexander's covered for him in the back line.
Selby. There's the lower grades, 23s to the Saints, reserves to Penrith. Funnell. Now here's Robards. Good chase by Burgess. Lydiard.
Spoke to David Lydiard before the match, and he said he had memories of a horror game last year against Steve Morris when he played for Parramatta against St George. Today he requested particularly to mark Steve Morris to try to make amends.
Gerard. It's Chris Houghton. 5 tackles gone now for Penrith. Alexander's kick going straight to Burgess. Gonzalez in 17, the chief tackler. Here he is again going for 2. Linane, Haddock, Funnell. Play just outside the St George 22. Izzard in that tackle, the number 3. Made a remarkable recovery when he left the field at Brookvale last Sunday. I thought that could be the end of Brad Izzard for a few weeks, but as I said, he's come back very quickly.
He's not even wearing strapping on the leg.
A little bit of rain off and on, a shower or 2, but nothing to worry about, I hope. A kick by Funnell standing on its point. Robards takes it. He scampers away from Linane, gets the ball on there to David Green. Green's over the halfway. Big run. About 8 or 9 metres into St George's territory. The ball has been lost. This will be a penalty. It's against Saints for, I think he's put him in the bin. He has. Yes, it's the sin bin for Funnell. A professional foul by Funnell. So he's in the sin bin for 5 minutes. Failing to find touch with the penalty. It's a terrible mistake for Penrith to make. It's a terrible pass there from Guida to Jarvis. Hit him on the shoulder point.
A lot of people wouldn't appreciate that, Ray, just how hard it is for a front rower hitting the ball up in traffic if he doesn't get a spot-on pass out in front of him. He's got to stop and fumble. He's in all sorts of trouble.
Morris. Mike O'Connor. Let's go to the sidelines. Here's Graham Hughes with Matt Goodwin.
Matt, nice important clash. Penrith, of course, are starting to win away from Penrith Park, but even though you're at home today, people are also starting to say, are Penrith going to start to put 1 and 2 wins together?
Yeah, well, it's got a consistent form about you, but slow start this season, but they're starting to string a few wins together now, so I think they're fairly confident today.
Well, you know all about the forward clashes. I think the key to this one today might lie in the front row. Bowman and Gerard up against Jarvis and Craig Young. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, it's usually controlled in the engine room, so a big game from those two will, could sway it.
Timmy Sheen's obviously missing you. The broken thumb, at what stage are you at now?
Out of class 2 days ago, and I've got 3 weeks. I should be back on the paddock.
Look forward to that. Thanks, man.
Yeah, looking.
It's Broman. Alexander, little chip. He knew they're up flat. Izzard's going very fast. He'll get the ball. His support. Connor. He held it back. Got it to Alexander. Alexander. He's going for the corner. It's a try. Oh, that's a great try. It was all Greg Alexander. It was all Greg Alexander with a touch of icing on the cake from Izzard and Connor. This is a superb rugby league try. Izzard was able to recapture. Connor dummied one way to Alexander. He knew that he was selling him a dump. Alexander switched direction, and a beautiful try comes for the Panthers.
Alexander's got that marvellous ability to know his capabilities. He knew he could chip the ball over the top, and he knew that Izzard could get it back. If you look in the back play here, Haddock came in to make a tackle. He ran into the back of Izzard as he tried to get Alexander, but it wasn't illegal. It was a play-on situation, and that's a great Penrith try.
Here it is again from another angled camera. Craig Connor does a good job here. He could see that player O'Connor coming in. He was going to swamp Alexander, and Connor called him around him, and that put Alexander into what we call free space. Good try scored by the current Dally M Player of the Year, Greg Alexander. Here he is with the attempted conversion from the touchline. 22 out. They don't come any more difficult. Angle-wise anyway. A great start for Penrith. His kick's coming around, but it's just offline. And so the Panthers lead St George 4 points to nothing. Robards coming in off the 5/8. Lydiard with a bit of open space to work in. Good chase by Chris Johns and by Funnell. And a scrum to go down just outside the Saints 32. But Penrith are really opening St George up, both in the middle and out wide. You've seen fellows like Simmons and Lydiard making long runs. Chris Johns has got a problem with a finger there, dislocation. Now it's a penalty to Penrith. Feed across against Chris Guida.
This has been a horror start for the Dragons. It's just what they wouldn't have wanted. Penrith putting all sorts of pressure on, and if they can keep their nose in front until half-time, they're going to get away with this one. I'm expecting St George to come in the second stanza very leaden-legged.
That breeze is more or less coming diagonally across the ground, favouring Penrith in the first 40 minutes. Cartwright, 15 metres out from the line now. This is Connor.
Great hit by Selby.
Tackle by Selby. Alexander holding it back, jinking around. They'll score again. Yes, Lydiard scores for Penrith. Well, 11 and a half minutes gone, and the Panthers are giving the St George Dragons a mauling and a half. This again was Alexander. Craig Young, he's lecturing his players, but Penrith are really playing very hot here. Alexander caused the trouble. Look at the big number 9. Walsh, he didn't know what to do, so he said, I'll hit somebody. But then it was Clements. All he had to do was hold it back, draw and commit, and Lydiard picks up the try.
Greg Alexander held a pass back beautifully here. He threw the dummy. Chris Walsh went up and made a tackle, but that left the hole. Greg Clements had backed up. He took the pass, fired it on the outside to Lydiard. He still had to beat some defence, but he shrugged that off easily to cross for the Panthers' second try.
The NEC replay of a try scored by David Lydiard. One of the toughest players in the game. That's not necessarily my thought, but I can assure you when he was working out of Parramatta, Jack Gibson only had one word to describe Lydiard, and that was tough. This is Alexander now from just inside the 22, 12 metres in from touch. That looks better. Take a bow, Mr. Alexander. You've promoted 2 tries and you've kicked a goal. It's 10 points to 0 in favour of the Brown and Whites. Cartwright. He's having a pretty ordinary game at the moment, Cartwright. He's been responsible for putting it down a couple of times. Quick passing to Gonzalez, onto Lydiard. Haddock's got him, back inside to Gonzalez. And he's tackled about 10 metres out from the line. Penrith again piling on the pressure. Alexander stops and props and gets the pass back. Daryl Broman in the middle of the park. Goes to Clements. Now it goes to Robards. Robards is held about 5 metres out from the line. 5 tackles gone for Penrith as they come to the blind side. Clements puts a kick in, but it's taken by Funnell, and he's grounded in goal, so it'll be a line dropout.
There are some tired St George players out there. The chip came over the top and no one went back to help Funnell whatsoever. They just stood and watched him and hoped that he was going to get the ball.
Referees here at Penrith today wearing a black armband as a mark of respect for the late Barry Bradstock, who was a colleague of theirs and also played with the Newtown club. He was a fine citizen and a great ambassador for rugby league, and who passed away just a couple of days ago. A minute of silence was observed here at Penrith Park before the match. And from all in rugby league to his family and friends, our deepest and sincerest sympathies. This is Walsh now, Chris Walsh. Saints getting a little bit of momentum up now. This is Guida. Gee, they haven't seen as much football as Penrith. This is Haddock. Linane cuts out O'Connor. It's bounced out in the middle of the park. Oh, here's trouble. Izzard's able to pick it up. Then he gets it away to David Green. Green is tackled out there by Morris. It was very much a one-on-one situation for Morris because Green and he were certainly just eyeball to eyeball. There was nobody else in the football game.
The last couple of matches I've seen St George fullback Glenn Burgess. He's made uncustomary mistakes like that one, and I just wonder if there's something wrong with him because I'm not used to seeing him make handling errors.
This is Brian Johnston. A sparkling start for Penrith. Linane cuts out Haddock, out the back for Selby. Funnell. O'Connor.
Chance here.
Johns. They'll go all the way unless Alexander pulls off a ripper. No, it's inside for Steve Morris, and the Saints have struck back. Both wingers playing a vital part, but it was probably engineered more than anything by Steve Funnell, the second rower. They got some momentum off Selby, and then Funnell held that ball back for O'Connor. Johns wasn't going to hold it, and then he did. Then Morris came out of nowhere off his right flank to link up with the left flanker, and the Saints are back at 10 points to 4, but it'll be pretty easy stuff for Mike O'Connor.
Put this down to Braz Izzard's mistake. He came in to make a tackle that he never had to make. That created the extra man out wide. Funnell took advantage of it. The ball moved on to Johns. Steve Morris came up in support on the inside, and once you give him a look at some open space, it shut the gate.
Steve Morris, the try scorer. O'Connor with no mistakes, and 10 points to 6 is the new scoreline in the NEC big game. Penrith leading St George. Here's Alexander to Clements, the run around dummy. Now it's Cartwright, looks to get it out the back. He's lucky to have hold of it, really. Here he is now playing at 20 metres out from the line. They hit the blind side. Connor back inside for Gonzalez, and Gonzalez is about 11 metres out from the St George line. To the left for Alexander. Jensen goes back to the blind. There's a bit of trouble. It was knocked down by Funnell, and it's going to be a Penrith feed to this scrum about 12 metres out from the St George line. Alexander to the open side. The cutout pass. Robards was swamped there by Mike O'Connor. They've got to go quick to the left. Alexander, Izzard, the run around makes the extra. Cut out ball to David Green, and Green is tackled about 15 metres out from the St George line. And here they come back with David Lydiard now. Reeling out of one, but held by Brian Johnston. And they're only about 8 metres out from the line. Penrith leading 10 to 6 as Alexander gives the short ball for Gerard. Gerard's within 5 metres of the line, held by Craig Young as it comes over to Alexander. It's gone to Clements. He gets off his right foot, gets it back to Connor. Connor stands, says who wants it. Simmons has got the ball, and Simmons is held about 10 metres out from the St George line, right in front of the uprights. 5 tackles gone. Alexander's looking for Clements. He runs to the open side. Now he finds Connor, and the ball has gone loose, and the referee is ordering the turnover. Guida, Jarvis. NEC big game scoreline. Penrith 10, St George 6. Saints out to the 22. Funnell.
There's been a noticeable improvement in St George in the last few minutes. As far as their defence is concerned, they held tight under considerable pressure from Penrith. But now with the ball, they're starting to make forward progress, and one can only wonder how long they can keep this up for.
Lane. Raj. (6-2) the scrums to Penrith. 2-1 the penalties to Penrith. Alexander kicks. He's leading the race for the ball. He's running away from the second rower. He takes it on the bounce. Oh, Greg Alexander! That's an Alexander the greatness. Oh boy, if anybody doubted the fellow's ability, and there are plenty of doubting Thomases when it comes to Greg Alexander discussions, I would say he's firmly shut their mouths in the first 30 minutes of this match today. This was Penrith's 3rd try. He laid the first 2 on, and he scored the last one himself.
I love a footballer that knows his capabilities, and what was going through Greg Alexander's mind here was this: I know I can chip this ball over the top in this spot, and I know I've got enough pace to beat him and him for the ball, and that's exactly what he did.
So here he is, Greg Alexander. Be my guest. See it again. Oh, that was beautiful stuff. That was almost like the #1 page out of a Steve Mortimer novel. The Archbishop of Canterbury couldn't have done better than that. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Graham Hughes would argue with that comment.
I certainly wouldn't, Ray. That was an absolutely brilliant try, and I think there's some of the greatest sights in rugby league these days with the defences the way they are. Mortimer, Phil Blake and Greg Alexander, they've got it on their own.
You said it. So Alexander gets the extras. All he's got to do now is pick up the cans after the match. He's doing everything here today. 16-6 in favour of the Panthers. Chrissy Guida, picked up by Linane. St George desperately working for points. Haddock, Craig Young, Haddock. I just got the feeling that St George didn't give themselves any depth on that occasion. Here's Steve Morris with the kick ahead. This will be a penalty where the ball lands. I'm waiting for the referee.
Oh, now I agree with you there, Ray. It should have been a St George penalty. I thought the referee was playing the advantage, waiting to see if St George came up with the ball or not.
Well, the director, Alan Catton, the cameraman, has picked it up quite clearly. There's no doubt Chris Houghton hit Steve Morris a clear couple of seconds after he kicked the ball. It's got to be a penalty where the ball lands. Sure, if St George comes up with it and then he wants to play the advantage, that's okay. But they didn't come up with the advantage. Well, now the touch judge has seen it the way we saw it, and he'll give the penalty now. Well, maybe Stone was looking elsewhere. I'm not sure where, but every man and his dog saw it.
Oh, should have had it. St George might come up with a try here, but I'd have still been inclined with the goal kicker of Michael O'Connell's capabilities just before half-time to try and get 2 points on the board.
He would have got it dead. They would have got the ball back anyway. This is Young. They might score a try and convert, and
still the wrong decision.
It's Haddock coming from blind to open for Johns. Out the back for Guida. A chance. Selby! 3 metres out from the line. Now St George are wide, and they're a bit deeper this time. Haddock, Linane, the kick ahead. Was he felled late? That's the question. Referee rules no, and it's coming out for the 22 tap for Penrith. This was the kick by Steve Linane, and I've got no queries there that the referee was quite right. Player had launched himself into the hit, but on the other occasion, it was a blatant late tackle. Seconds before half-time. Penrith 16, St George 6. I don't want to be ultra critical of Penrith and the way they promote football, because they're a great promoter in their own right of the game, but if there's a scoreboard in Australia that I find difficult to read, it's the one here at Penrith. It's a mind-boggler. But there's the score, 16-6 in favour of Penrith. As the siren sounds for half-time, let's take a half-time comment from Graham Hughes.
Ray, I'm just not prepared to write off St George at this stage. If you think back to last week, Penrith, it cost them badly when they came up against Manly. They only played for 40 and not 80 minutes. A great first half from them today, but if there is a chance for St George, it should be in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Penrith really in that stage of the game have got to concentrate very heavily on their defensive line.
Cartwright. Short ball from Simmons to Gerard. He's opened them up. Gerard now comes to a halt. Alexander. Clements is on his outside. Clements is looking for somebody. He finds Gonzalez, but he puts it down out wide. Crowd goes back to their seat. It's a match that's been allowed to run along in the penalty department. Craig Connor, only 7 penalties in the match. 4-3 to St George. Alexander showing it, holding it back. Burgess, he's away from him, he's away from another. He stands in a third. Can he unload? He can't. And Chris Houghton not liking what he saw. That's silly of him, really. There was the right from Walsh on Alexander's cheek or chin bone. Two out of 3 for Alexander. This 2 converted tries out of the reach of the Saints. His kick is unsuccessful. So 16 points to 6 the score in favour of Penrith. No change. The NEC replay of a perfect illustration of the grubber kick. Connor to play it.
And get ready for Penrith to seal this one.
Alexander. I think he must be wearing no deodorant or something. Nobody wants to put him down. Roy Simmons.
Penrith are just about to put this one beyond doubt.
Clements. Thank you, Nostradamus. Gerard! Just as well they tackled him, he would have taken the uprights with him. Alexander. Where is it? St George have got it. Now it's Brian Johnston. See how the speedy St George men come in and take this play away from their own danger zone. That's good tactics, but obviously they're not good enough tactics to change the scoreboard from a rather depressing 16 to 6. Well, Steve Morris kicked that as hard as you could possibly see the ball kicked, and Chris Houghton still came up with it from almost point-blank range. Gonzalez. Now it's David Lydiard. Now Brad Izzard. Johnston chases. He's got him. Base over apex, Izzard. See it again on the NEC replay. Gonzalez was taken by Mike O'Connor. Lydiard got it in for Izzard, and then Johnston puts him on the merry-go-round. Have a look at him go. Alexander, Clements, out the back for Connor. Now it's away to Alexander, picked up by Izzard, spun away with his back turn. Chris Gons is in the clear. How fast is Lydiard and Alexander? Alexander, he's gone. Lydiard's not though. Oh, what a magnificent tackle by David Lydiard. But the Saints, they should score here. Perry Haddock, he's gone back to the middle. There were 2 men to the right, unmarked. Steve Morris is waving to the players in the middle of the park saying, what about me out here? Morris is waving and saying, what about me out here? Gentlemen, please. Alexander still receiving attention. I don't think Slippery can believe it. He had more vacant parkland than the National Parks and Wildlife people. And this is David Green, just on Osborne. I thought he'd been contracted by Balmain.
No, at no stage. Went straight to St George from school.
All right, this is Broman. Cartwright. Craig Connor. Floating pass out to Clements. See this at Penrith. There's been so many Penrith players allowed to stand. Fellows that you don't look to stand in tackles and offload. Blokes like Craig Connor, Greg Clements.
Yeah, they have been, and that's bad St George defence that's allowing that to happen. But I'm sure that Tim Sheens wouldn't be all that impressed either with the way some of these players are pushing passes that aren't on. It's not necessary. Penrith have got this game wrapped up. The only way they can lose it is if they hand it to St George on a plate.
Burgess. Guida. Haddock. Jarvis. Young. Put down by Johns. That's off the boot of Lydiard. The referee said that's right. Lydiard's going, oh, very close. But a good full-back tackle by Burgess. Well, isn't this competition? Lydiard! Lydiard to within 2 metres of the line. Alexander's the dummy half. That's Simmons. He's within a metre of it. Alexander gets it back for Robards. Robards pulled down by Perry Haddock. No, it was Steve Robinson. Gerard to Alexander. Izzard. Rubber kick ahead. He might still score. Yeah, they'll score. Yeah, Chris Houghton. Chris Houghton has scored a try. I'm not so sure he forced it with downward pressure. But the replay should tell the story. Izzard got his kick in. The referee held the whistle back. Houghton put it on the boot a couple of times. Oh, yes, he did. Downward pressure for sure. It's a try for Penrith's Chris Houghton.
It's been a long time coming in the second half for Penrith to put points on the board, but they finally did. And once again, it was the little kick through. This time the grubber. Houghton came through, socketed ahead and fell on it for the 4-pointer.
Round the corner she comes. Another goal for Alexander. 22 points to 6. Penrith leading St. George in the NEC big game. Sideline comment. Let's go to Graham.
Well, Ray, just wait for this ovation from the Penrith Park crowd as Greg Alexander leaves the field. Henry Foster has gone on in 20 to take his place, and the king of Penrith Park today takes a well-earned rest.
Wow. That's what that phone call was all about, ladies and gentlemen. That was Tim Sheens telling that runner to get Mr. Alexander off and give him first use of the showers.
We might need him next week.
Jarvis inside the 22. 11,357 here at Penrith Park today. The ball to be played by Selby. That's Osborne in the 26 jumper. It mightn't. There's a penalty to the Saints. Stealing the ball against Penrith. Guider. Henry Foster is on. Out to Haddock, on to Young. Turns it inside. Oh, Selby went without it. And it's a knock-on and a scrum to go down. Brett Izzard puts in a kick. It's a monster of a kick. He's played at the ball. Everybody's onside.
There is something wrong with this fellow. He is nowhere near the footballer he was last year. He's a player with tremendous ability. I just think he's got to be injured.
Morris. '26 is Osborne. That applause you hear in the background is for Chris Houghton coming off. Well, we've been able to get that backpack camera of ours into the first aid room. Graham Hughes is there with Greg Alexander.
Greg, an absolute super performance from the Penrith side today.
Yeah, it was a good effort. I think we went out there in the right frame of mind, and you know, that first 10 minutes, I think, caught St. George unaware, and we just went on from there.
Yeah, and also backed it up in the second half. I think against Manly last week, you're probably guilty of, only a 40-minute performance?
Yeah, that's right. I think 10 minutes after the first half, we went out there, and like, if they didn't score, then no one knew when to score, and that's what we did.
I'll take you through it, the try of yours, when you put through the kick, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was just hoping for a good bounce. I just saw Glenn Burgess out of position, so, you know, might as well have a go.
Any problems here with the shoulder?
No, just a ligament strain, I think I had.
Great performance, Greg.
Thanks, man.
All right, Ray, back to you.
Give him a monitor, Graham. He can watch the last part of it. Good on you, Greg. Thanks for giving us that interview. Here's Jarvis.
Greg's a player in the past that's had some criticism, and you know, he's one of those young men that when things go wrong for him and he gets criticism and deserves it, he takes it on the chin.
Chrissy Guider, the little fellow's down to the 22 line, gets a pass away. Mike O'Connor can't go on.
And David Lydiard, for the second time in this match, comes from the clouds to save a try.
Morris now. Grubber kick ahead, and again, Izzard forces the ball. Line drop out to restart. So here's Stevie Morris with the little kick ahead. I'm starting to wonder how close St George are to maybe bringing Steve Morris back to the base of the scrum. This is Selby. Osborne in 26. A matter of seconds remaining. Craig Young has put the ball down behind him. It was dived on by a hungry Panther. Who was it?
Joe Batanza.
Thank you. Foster. Started with the Panthers a few years ago, Henry. He went to Brisbane. He was deputy, in fact, to Mark Murray in Brisbane. Now back with the Panthers. Robarts. It's pretty heavy traffic in there for little men, but he doesn't seem to shirk his task. Broman. Well, while Alexander's been reaping the plaudits of the crowd and the commentators, and I guess you people at home, let's not forget the work that's been done by the two props, including Darryl Broman. There's the siren, and this Penrith crowd absolutely stoked. A very, very big win for the Penrith side as this rugby league wheel of fortune goes around again. One of the junior clubs defeating one of the great sides, one of the great clubs of rugby league by a whopping 22-6. Alexander 2, Lydiard, Houghton 1 each. Alexander 3 goals. Morris a try for St George, and O'Connor a goal. The local scene west